is it Darren Mort? Is that how it's
That's it.
pronounced?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. How are you today?
Waking up, you're probably at the other end of
Waking
the
up.
day, though.
Yeah, it's evening here. So yeah, it's
Where is
about
here?
I'm in Texas.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, we just
Great.
had a rainstorm, so it just quieted down not too long ago.
All right. Yeah, we've just,
Yeah.
well, it's beautiful here. It's spring. Um,
It's
out, yeah, spring is fantastic here in Melbourne. It's beautiful.
Oh, you're in Melbourne. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I've always found it weird that the weather is the complete opposite of what it is here in the
Yeah,
South. I mean, we're
that's
looking
right.
into we're at the dead end of summer going in starting getting ready to go into fall.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah.
yeah, our winter
Yeah.
is about to come up soon.
Yeah. I like fall. Fall's beautiful. Winter's not so beautiful.
No. Well, I don't like winter. I'm not I don't like cold weather very much.
No,
I'm from the
likewise.
South, so
Yeah, likewise. I must get to Texas one of these days.
yeah, just be keep in mind, don't come in the between June and August because it is hot. It is the hottest time of year for us.
Right.
Average days in July were about 105 degrees,
Wow.
but with heat index, it was much higher. So,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
it gets hot here too. I don't mind the heat though, I must say. Um, as long as we've got air conditioning, because I love the beach.
yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
I was from Jacksonville, Florida. So I am a
Oh,
beach girl.
yep. Yeah, I love the
Yeah,
beach. It's just the best. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So now you have an amazing career. I mean, you started out it's family law with over 30
Yeah.
years of experience and accolades such as a barrister of the year.
Yeah, I got
What
that in 22.
what inspired you to specialize in this area and how has it influenced your work as a writer and storyteller?
Um, yeah, look, I think reflecting back, it had a lot to do with my upbringing as a kid, because we didn't have the most ideal upbringing as far as having a functional nuclear family of sorts, and there was some exposure in that to family violence. And when I finished my schooling, my last year of school, I had to, well, our house was sold at a mortgagee's auction and we had to all move out. And I moved in with my cousin. It just, I don't know, it just headed me towards that direction. I started doing criminal law. And then a few of my friends said, how about doing some work in the family court? And I did those. And here I am 35 years later as a barrister. So, but it really attuned me to the work I do. I think I have a lot of empathy, and I think that's needed when you're practicing
Right.
in our particular field. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. Now, you're not just a legal expert, but you're also a professional actor and producer. How do you balance that? I mean, diverse roles, and in what ways have your experiences in film and acting enriched your approach to writing?
Yes, well, it's funny you say that because I've always had a dual career. Ever since I started law, back in 1989, I was spotted by a casting consultant when I was in a musical, and then I went to drama school, and this was at the same time I was a barrister, and I've always had an agent, and got a fantastic agent now, Charmaine. But I've always had this dual career. It's always happened that way. It's only recently, since we set up the charity, that my paths have crossed. So I believe it does enrich my practice, and vice versa. It helps me, the techniques that I learn as an actor definitely help me in court. I've got no doubt about that. It helps with relaxation, it helps with projection, it helps with spontaneity. So I think the two careers definitely enhance one another.
Yeah, I could see that with as an actor and especially being a trial lawyer and you have to convey certain things. If you can't act very well, it's not going to come across the way you need it to in order to present your case appropriately, I would say.
That's right. Absolutely right, Kathy. Yeah.
So now the concept of family separation and the impact on children is a recurring theme in your work. How has your personal journey shaped your understanding of these complex dynamics, and how do you translate them into your creative projects?
Yes, well, I think, as I said before, I think looking back, my history of growing up has informed my writing significantly. I know when I hit touch points because when I'm writing, I actually feel it. I'm a very visual person, so I actually see what I write. And I think the whole concept around family separation from my own family, from my friends who have separated, and from the work that I do in the family court has definitely given me a whole heap of understanding in this particular area. And the fact that different people and children, parents and children, have different needs and wants. So I think it really helps me when I'm digging down, drilling down into those particular factual scenarios. It really helps me think about stories that I'd like to tell, and stories that will not only that I'd like to tell, but that will make an impact on people.
Right. So, now s- the cases that you've dealt with, have any of them helped, influence your other creative work?
Yeah, definitely. Our first film, well, really my second film. My first film was a film on family violence called Degree of Separation. But my second film, Tommy, which has been very embraced by the United States, that film emanated from a case that I did. It involved a little boy who was about 8 or 9, and he would imagine blue kangaroos. Uh, one of his friends was Joey, and he would talk to this imaginary friend. And for him, this imaginary friend was real. He'd see kangaroos jumping out of his wardrobe. He'd totally disassociate due to the level of conflict that he was under, living being pulled in either direction by his parents. His mother had a psychiatric issue, and his father was a pretty genuine bloke, but probably didn't have the level of understanding that he should have in the circumstances. But in any event, it really informed my writing some, gosh, 9 or 10 years later, when I wrote Tommy, because Tommy, of course, has an imaginary friend called Tiger Terry, and Tiger Terry's the person that he speaks to, that he goes to help him navigate his family separation, family violence. So definitely, the experiences, the cases I've had inform my writing and film production.
Yeah. So you have a charitable foundation called To Be Loved Network. And it
Yes.
focuses on helping children navigate conflicts of parental separation. Can you share the story behind the foundation's inception and how it connects with the messages in your book, Isla's Song?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Absolutely. Uh, in about 2015, 2016, I was seconded onto the Domestic Violence Task Force Committee reporting to the Royal Commission on Family Violence here in Australia. And that committee was incredible. It had amazing people on it. It had people from all walks of life, people helping women and children find emergency housing, legal assistance, refuges, counselling, all sorts of things. And at the time, I sat on this committee and I thought, gee, these people are doing some fantastic work. But I'd really, instead of waiting at the bottom of these cliffs for families to drop and providing them with some triage, I'd love to be able to climb up to the top of the cliff and prevent them from jumping in the first place. And
Right.
thus, To Be Loved was formed. So Nancy Bassett, who is an amazing lady, and myself, we set up this charity to help children navigate family violence and divorce and separation by producing resources. The idea came to me because I went to have an arthroscopy once, Kathy, and the surgeon put me in a room first and had me watch a video of how the surgery's done. It was all animated. And then I went into the room and had a chat to him. And I thought, what a wonderful idea. Wouldn't it be great to be able to show kids and parents a film to actually flag what we're talking about before I spoke to them. So my films are a little bit more impactful than an arthroscopy, but I thought, what a great idea. So that's how it was formed. And Tommy and Tiger Terry was the first book that I wrote, which was launched in Parliament House here by the Commissioner of Police. And then we did the film a couple of months later. We were on a submarine in one of our bays here, filming Tommy. And as I said before, Tommy's really been our flagship. It's been an amazing little film. So that's how the foundation came about. It has grown significantly since its inception. We have a researcher on board from one of the universities. We have amazing people who all work for free, but are dedicated to making children's lives better.
That's awesome. I they have some programs here in the States, but I don't think there's enough programs to help. And they keep
Yeah.
and the resources are very limited. Um, they try to expand them as much as possible, but I don't think they do enough.
Yeah, there's a
Especially when it
wonderful.
comes to domestic violence, as
Sure.
there needs to be, I've always thought for myself, because of what I've been through in my life, I suffered for 17 years in a situation that was hard to get out of,
Right.
and always thought that it would be nice if there was a place that families that are trying to get out of those situations could go and start over without, you know, and have that help to start, so that way they
Yeah.
could get back on their feet.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest part is
Well,
when you're in that situation and trying to get out of it and you have nowhere to go, you end up being stuck and don't know how to get out.
it's so anxiety provoking, and I'm not critical of parents, but because it's like being on the Titanic, I suppose they're trying to save themselves emotionally and physically in situations like this, and often children unintentionally get neglected,
Right,
and children don't know what's going on. They love their mum, they love their dad. They don't understand why mum and dad aren't together anymore. They think it's their fault. They blame themselves, and
right.
these resources are meant to be powerful tools so that parents can sit down with their kids and read them these books and open up communications with them, and answer their
Yeah,
questions. Yeah.
yeah. That's something that is definitely needed. Now, you spoke of your short film Degree of Separation, which you won multiple international awards for, which it does address family violence. How do you see the role of storytelling in creating and social awareness and change and because of that?
I think it's probably a drop in the ocean. I think every little bit helps. I think these types of stories um, bring these conversations to the forefront and help people understand and perhaps question themselves, question their own behaviours, question the behaviours of their partners, question the impact on children. So I think every time one of these particular films or books are brought to the forefront, it really moves things along. And in this day and age with social media, we've got TikTok, we've got Snapchat, we've got YouTube, a whole variety of platforms out there, Instagram.
Right.
I think this particular storytelling really gives people a bit of a refuge to go to and to assist. I've just started recording on TikTok, and I've not that I'm an avid poster at this stage because of time, but I've just noticed even from that people are really wanting to hear these sorts of stories and relate to them and get
Right.
something out of them. Yeah. So I think it's very useful, Kathy. I think these platforms will be very powerful in the future, particularly if they're used properly.
Yeah. If they're used properly.
Yeah.
Because I've seen there's a lot of stories on there, and people put their stories out there because they want, you know, an outsider's opinion on something on how to
Yes.
handle a situation, and a lot of times they get answers that they couldn't find anywhere else, and it's
That's right.
helped them immensely.
Yeah,
So, I
that's
mean,
right.
those kinds of stories are important to tell, so people can figure out how to navigate those things
Yeah,
in their
and I
life
look,
because,
I feel very privileged as a family lawyer because we're very privileged voyeurs, if you like, because every
yeah,
day I open up a brief and it contains a story of some person's life. And those stories are all unique. Those children in those stories are unique little human beings. So I
yeah,
feel very privileged to be able to read their stories and, in some way, and confidentially, of course, retell those stories in a way that's going to help others.
yeah, because that's how people learn sometimes. They learn from other people's situations on how to navigate their own
Yes,
because you don't have all of the knowledge that you need. So if you hear somebody else's and it has similarities, it's like, oh, so this is how you did it.
that's
Maybe
right.
I can try that. Maybe this will work for me,
That's
you
right.
know? So, I
Yeah,
mean, that's just kind of human nature. It's like that's how we learn, you know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Now,
For me it's give me a piece of wood and I start having an anxiety attack how to use tools on it. But if someone if someone were to sit down with me and show me how to use a hammer and a screwdriver, it'd
right,
probably make me a lot less tense because I'm learning how to do something that I'm not familiar with. And look, I know that's a basic example, but it's not really. It really applies to a whole realm of things that I'm doing in the family law space.
right. Now, in Isla song, it's set in the 50s and 60s, which is a period rich with cultural and music transformations. What drew you to that era, and how does it serve as the backdrop to Isla's emotional and physical journey? Because the 50s and 60s, that's my favorite era too.
Right. Well, I'm a bloke who, and I was talking to someone yesterday about this. I would have loved to have been a hippie in the 1960s, listening to music like Joni Mitchell and people like that. I would have loved to have been hanging out in San Francisco, living my life, living my dream with a
Right,
daisy. Um, and so I look back on that era with a lot of fondness. The music is incredible, the lifestyle, the freedom of coming out of terrible world wars, World War One and World War Two, though they did have the Vietnam War cloud that era for a time. But
right,
it was just a special era looking back on the history, and it meant a lot to me. So we've got a little house down at a place called Phillip Island here in Australia. Phillip Island's about an hour and a half, perhaps southeast of Melbourne, and it's where our famous penguins live. It's a beautiful island. It's raw, it's rough. The seas, the craggy cliffs, the amazing surf beach and beautiful. It's just a beautiful island. Anyhow, I would hop on my bike and put on my headphones and listen to Joni Mitchell music and imagine living in an era in which Isla was brought up. And that's what drew me to the era, the Joni Mitchell music. The island, Phillip Island, reminded me of Scotland. And the other thing which is important as a factual point is that since 1984, we have the Hague Convention. Now, the Hague Convention, for listeners, was set up to assist with the retrieval of children that were illegally that have been illegally abducted overseas, and there are a number of
trafficked.
trafficked, yeah, and there are a number of countries that are signatory to that convention. Now, it has what's called a central authority, which is the entity which acts to retrieve those children. And so I couldn't set the book from the 1980s onwards and set it in present time because of that issue with the central authority. So the 50s and the 60s was a viable option for me. And in any event, it really attracted me as an option because of my love for that era.
Yeah. Now, of course, because you keep mentioning Joni Mitchell, and now music plays a central role in Isla's life, offering her solace and a path to healing. How did you develop the theme, and what significance? I can't talk. What significance does the music hold in the broader narrative of the book?
Yeah, sure. Well, music is very healing, I find, for most people. And so it is the journey of Isla is a healing journey because she gets abducted when she's only nearly 5 years of age from Melbourne here in Australia to the Orkney Islands in Scotland, which is way north, as people might know. Um, the theme of the book and its significance was developed out of a case that I had been exposed to. I was acting for a father whose little girl was taken to the Orkney Islands from Melbourne illegally by her mother. And in that case, we were able, or the Central Authority, through its mechanisms, was able to find the little girl and bring her back here to Australia. So that was the baseline of my story. The rest is from from my imaginings and my many bike rides around Phillip Island, listening to Joni Mitchell music and the songs that pieced the whole book puzzle together. The music for Isla, well, her father in the book is a composer, a music composer. He also teaches piano, and from a very early age, he starts to put together this little song called Isla's Song, which is the backbone of the book. And it's that when she's taken away to the Orkney Islands, it's that song that gives her solace because it's part of her father, and she develops that song into her adulthood, and it becomes a very strong brace for her. So that music, the Joni Mitchell music, the music that Isla creates, the Gaelic origins of that music are very important in the book.
So now you mentioned there was a particular case that you worked for a father. Was that the story that inspired you to explore such a deeply emotional and traumatic storyline? And was there a way that you hoped that it would resonate with readers?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. I thought the storyline was a great backbone for the book. Um, can I say too, and it's mentioned in the foreword of the book, there's an amazing lady called Marilyn Freeman who is an academic. I think she's got a PhD, probably 10 of them. She does particular studies into the impact of abduction on children. And I went to a number of her seminars. One of them was in Ireland, of all places, at the International Children's Congress. And what she said and what she showed by way of filming of these particular victims really, really inspired me. The psychology and the nuance and the impact of abduction on children is significant. And what I took away from those presentations really informed me with the book as far as the psychological nuances, and they're very significant nuances. And I'm proud to say, I think, judging from psychologists I respect who have read the book, I think I've nailed it in the book in terms of what Isla would have gone through.
Yeah. Now, since the betrayal of Isla's mother was such a pivotal moment in the story, how did you approach writing such a complex character? And do you hope readers understand about the motives behind her actions?
Yeah, well, writing such a complex character, I'm exposed to those complex characters every day in court. So I'd sort of pinned Jess, the mother, as a sort of person she was. However, can I say this, Kathy? I didn't. I know she took the child, and I know she took the child without permission, but I didn't necessarily want to paint her as a dark, evil sort of person. Um, so I wanted to paint her as someone who was helpless, who didn't know what to do, had nowhere to turn to, because she it's discussed in the book, but she's someone who was probably suffering from postnatal depression. And back in the 50s, there wasn't a lot around for women going
Right.
through postnatal depression. And there wasn't a lot of help. And she was a nurse, so she probably thought she knew better, or she knew best in terms of what she was going through. She probably thought, I can handle this, and she ended up not handling it and ultimately taking the child away. So her journey is one of recovery, and it's one where she turns inwardly with the assistance of addressing her demons, to try and be a better mother. And she really tries to do that. I don't know whether she achieves it. That's up to the readers to decide.
Yeah.
But she tries, you know.
Yeah. I can understand. And it's like back at that in that era, of course, there was, and it hadn't even been discovered at that point that women
No,
actually suffered from postpartum issues. I know
that's
it
right.
was discovered
Yeah.
later, much later. I think the first
And not
discussions I heard of it weren't until the 80s, maybe the 90s, where they
I
talk
think that
about postpartum issues.
I think that's right. And so there was no supports around, and people couldn't talk about it, and people probably didn't know what they were suffering. It was probably very unique to them, very alien. And the other thing, too, for Jess is that she was a bit of a power woman, because Oliver was pretty hopeless. I mean, he was doing what he loved doing, he was writing music and teaching during the day. Totally different stresses than what Jess had working as a nurse at a hospital.
Right,
And and I don't think he appreciated the stress that she was under as well. I really think it totally escaped him as well. And people often turn inwardly. Oh, sorry. People often turn in a direction to address their own feelings and what they're going through. And human beings are fantastic at blame, rather than accepting responsibility.
right,
and and I think a lot of that was going on with Oliver in terms of Jess. I think he just didn't understand what she was going through. Now, what she did was horrific, obviously,
yeah,
but you can't really shovel the blame to her 100%. And
right,
I didn't want it to come across in the book like that.
yeah. Have
Yeah.
to recognize and take accountability. Okay, what could I have done differently?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so I'd ask readers not to judge Jess too heavily, because she was in a difficult position, living in a different era, having to make difficult decisions, and she was drowning in a sea of depression.
Right. Now, I'm sorry. The each chapter, because we've talked, you talk a lot about Joni Mitchell, and I've noticed that each chapter in the book is named after a Joni Mitchell song, which is unique and an intriguing choice by far. Um, was there a specific reasoning behind this, and how do the songs enhance the reader's experience of Isla's journey?
Well, as I said before, I think Joni Mitchell music is iconic, and it gives a flavour of an era which helps you take a journey into your own imagination. Um, if you lived during those eras, it certainly would bring back a lot of memories. Just the names of some of her songs,
Right,
um, and and even those songs, even today, have played major roles in music in movies, such as, one of them. Oh gosh, now it's got escaped me. The song that is sung by In Love Actually, um, which reminds, that scene in Love Actually with Emma. It's escaped me, um, but
it's
she
escaping
discovered,
me too.
yeah, she discovers her husband has been having an affair. Both sides now. That song, and
Okay,
it's just a beautiful song. And Emma Thompson acts through Joni Mitchell's music. Doesn't say a word, but the music carries you through her feelings. And
right,
that's why I chose her, because her music is physically and emotionally impactful. And my editor, on the first night we got together, she said, "Okay, we're going to name the chapters of the book." And I said, "What now? I haven't even written a page of the book yet, and you want me to name all the chapters?" She said, "Yep." I want you to name all the chapters. So I got out the Wikipedia, and it had all Joni Mitchell's music list, and the story was pretty solid in my head, and we named the chapters. And do you know, Kathy, after that, I wrote the book and I did not change the name of one chapter.
Nice. So you managed to make sure that every chapter that, that particular chapter conveyed what that song title was.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
Joni Mitchell is great. She had the of the 60s the best what a lot of people considered folk music. It
Yes,
wasn't exactly hippie. It was folk music is what Joni
that's right.
Mitchell. That's what she's known for. It was her folk music.
That's
So,
right.
yeah. I was born in 1967. I should have been born several years earlier. I would have been perfect for that time era. I know I was
Yeah.
born in it, but I should have been born earlier because I would have just, I mean, I absolutely love everything about the 60s, the music,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
You
I'm the
know,
same as you. I was born around the same time as you. And so I would listen to the music as a child, but I probably didn't really get it. But I
I
used
get
to,
it now.
I get it
I
now.
really get it now.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It's just formidable,
Yeah,
formidable. And, I've got a 60s best playlist, which I often have on in the car on Spotify. And I just love it. It just takes me to a different place. Um,
right,
and now with Isla's song, it really is really very impactful. Yeah, because I think music and film, they speak to people's souls.
right,
And I can say to you, Kathy, okay, name your top three movies, and in a bang, the neurotransmitters transport you to your favorite film. And when I say that, you're automatically thinking of one of your favorite scenes in that movie that is dear to your heart, that means something to you. And music's
right,
like that too. On us human beings, it's that imagery, it's the sense, it's where you were at a particular time when you first heard that song. It's the impact that song has on you when you form partnerships with loved ones. It's the song that you shared together. Um,
right.
and Joni Mitchell's music made that impact on me, and hopefully makes that impact on the book.
Okay. Now, the story does touch on themes of love, stardom, and the eternal hopes of a child. What messages do you hope readers take away from Isla's struggles and triumphs, especially in the context of modern day challenges faced by children?
Yeah, I think one of the most important messages in the book is to listen. Um, Parents need to listen to their children. Um, we need to understand that children are special gifts. Um, Not everyone can have them. Not everyone wants them, but not everyone can have them, and they are special gifts. And emotionally, they're fragile. So we've got to strengthen up those fragilities by listening to them, by validating their concerns, and by being responsible as parents by way
Yeah,
of facilitating positive relationships. And you look, the most important things for children are safety and living in a stress-free or an environment where there's no conflict. So they're important messages in the book, and they're challenges that face children day in and day out as a result of the family violence and the level of parental separation that's around. I don't know what the stats are in America, but in Australia, nearly one in two families end up in divorce. Of those, some 48% have children. And of those
right.
48% of families that have children, 65% are exposed to some level of family violence. So those stats are horrific. And
Yeah,
so we need to, if we're going to have a positive society moving forward, our best heroes, our best chances of having that positive society are our kids,
yeah. You have to teach them well, teach
for
them
sure,
right.
for sure. So
Yeah,
Isla had a lot of struggles, but she also had a lot of triumphs.
yeah. Now, the book does it presents a narrative that intertwines her personal dreams with harsh realities. How do you navigate the delicate balance between hope and despair in the book? And are there lessons that you want, that you believe it offers?
Yeah, sure. So I think the best way to cope with hope and despair is comedy, um, because comedy's an amazing tool because no, number one, if it's personal, it allows you to laugh at yourself.
Right.
Secondly, it takes you out of that anxiety and allows you to laugh, allows you to breathe.
Yeah.
So, so you'll see in the book there's a lot of comedy as well that people can relate to, but there's also a lot of serious stuff in the book too. And I've tried to inform my writing with making sure that I address that delicate balance of hope and despair, and also break it up with comedic comedic passages, moments in the book that readers will have a good belly laugh with, and probably be able to relate to some of their own funny stories in their own lives. But it is a delicate balance. But the I think the book, as far as Isla is concerned, Isla is a really powerful girl, and she grows into being a very formidable, strong woman uh, who's brave. So that's the particular formula to address that hope and despair, because for Isla, um, I think hope springs eternal.
Yeah. Now, you had said earlier that it's set in the Orkney Islands, and you mentioned that there's a wild and unforgiving landscape, which is
Yes.
very significant to the story. What is the particular reason you chose that location, and what does it symbolize in Isla's life and her particular journey?
Right. Well, I chose the Orkney Islands because it came from that case that I told you about earlier, and
Okay.
it seemed to be as far away from Australia as you can imagine. So that was number one. Number two, it was an island, and it was important for the story to figuratively place Isla on an island away from everything. Okay, detached from the rest of the world,
Okay.
detached from her family back here in Australia, and so it was, in one sense, being on an island was symbolic for me, and her life potentially, well, it was wild, and the landscape, as you said, on the Orkney Islands is unforgiving, and there's all that elements that flow through the book in terms of, the reader wondering whether she'll have a reunion with her father, whether she will be unforgiving, how wild she'll be. All those themes come into play in terms of guessing emotionally and psychologically how a child would deal with that, particularly a child who's grown up to be such a wild, um, talented, powerful woman. So
Okay.
the Orkney Islands seemed an obvious choice.
Oh, okay. Now, as the story spans multiple themes, from betrayal to the power of music, how did you ensure that each aspect of Isla's life was given depth and meaning throughout this narrative?
Um, Step by step, um, I wanted to address things from a developmental level. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm exposed to a lot of psychology in the family court, as you can imagine.
Right.
Um, and I was had the ready expertise at my hand in terms of a number of dear friends um, who have provided me with advice and tutelage over the years in terms of social sciences. And I also had Marilyn Freeman's amazing information talks, presentations at the back of my mind as well. So that particular bundle of information ensured that I was able to give Isla's life some depth and meaning, and I was also able to travel developmentally with her in terms of how she might address her inner feelings. And I suppose if you're going to make some comparisons, she was like on this little rowboat where the music was carrying her along that developmental journey, and sang to her in terms of reaching her various goals.
Okay. Now, Isla's song, Love of a Child, the book's title suggests a focus on innocence and purity of a child's love. How do you believe this theme resonates with readers, particularly in today's society where childhood can be often fraught with many challenges? I mean, it was back then. I mean, we didn't have a lot of resources growing up.
Yeah,
There was a lot of things that we went through that nobody talked about. It was never addressed.
yeah.
So how do you see it in comparison to today?
Um, Look, I'm of the school where I think human beings are human beings. And although sometimes I think we kid ourselves that we've come a long way, I don't know whether we have a lot. I think we still, from a purely basic, primitive level, we still are very much the same as we were years ago. We still have similar needs and wants. I know technology's taken us a long way, but we still have similar needs and wants. We still want to be loved. We still want to be included. Um, we we still feel that we need people around us to support us. There's not many people around that are hermits or individuals that don't need that or prepared to admit to that. And I think the title for me signifies the importance that everyone needs that love and that nourishment to be able to grow. And so having Isla in a situation whereby she's loved by a mother who finds it difficult to show love because of her upbringing, and being prevented from having the love of a father as a result of her abduction. It focuses on what Isla needs, what she needs as far as love is concerned. And it also focuses on the importance of giving children love and hope and support and courage, and all of those things that we need at a primitive level. And I think that's what it's about, Kathy. And I think that flows through to the same needs and wants that children have in our society presently. Um, and,
Yeah,
I, and I think it's getting worse. I think people are turning inward in terms of their needs and wants, and not focusing on children and their needs and wants. And they are hopefully that they don't become the forgotten generation. But
right.
if people would only realize that that's where our hope lies,
Yeah,
and the terrible shootings, the school shootings that you guys have over in America, and that every time
right.
we hear those, I feel my heart overpours, with emotion, because I think those children who commit those acts, I would hate to see their families, and I would hate to see what those children have been through to commit such acts of
Right.
violence against other
Yeah,
human
their
beings.
families are, it's like, how did they not notice this was going on? You know,
Exactly, exactly.
that it comes to this,
That's
and
right.
there's still, there's many stories over here and everywhere of kids being bullied,
That's
and
right.
people try to get it addressed, and then adults, the ones who are supposed to protect them, the teachers and everything in school, they don't do anything about it, and it comes down to the point where a child takes their life because they can't handle it anymore, and
That's right.
nobody's doing anything about it. It's like you got to pay attention to them sometimes. But the
Absolutely.
one thing that I've noticed that they want to try and do in schools here, which I do not approve of, is that you know they don't want to bring parents in to talk to them about issues their kids are having. They want the kids to just go to them and let them, help them figure it out. And it's like, no, that's not your job. Your job is to educate my child. But if my child comes to you with an issue, it is your duty to tell me because that's my child and
That's right.
I have to help them. You're
That's
taking away something very important. You're breaking down, a construct between a parent and a child by trying to eliminate a parent from a child's, you know, life,
right. Yeah.
and decisions that they're making. And the thing is what I don't understand is do you not, you've got to remember they are children,
That's
you
right.
know, and they need guidance. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, here, do this, do this. We'll help you do it. We won't tell your parents." No, that's not helping them. You need to
No.
encourage them to be a child because I know as growing up, I went through many different phases. A child does not know their mind. They change their mind like they change their genes every 5 minutes. It
Exactly.
happens. So you don't shove your ideology down my child's throat and cut me out of the narrative because you're causing more damage down the line. And they don't think they can come to me because you cut me out in the first place.
Exactly.
Children need to be protected from that kind of thing. And that's why these horrible things happen because they're not helping parents, saying, hey, this is what's going on. This is what you need to address.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's
teachers are there to educate. Yes, they have counselors so they can go to them. But at that point, the counselor, because it is a child, should go to the parents and say, okay, look, maybe we want to talk about this. Maybe we need to, set something up. Here's some recommendations.
yes.
Don't cut the parents out because when you cut the parents out, this is what happens. Parents have no clue why this happened with their child. They were a good kid, this. They had no idea what was going on because
That's right.
nobody bothered to tell them so
Yeah.
they could fix the situation. And now many lives are lost because teachers took it upon themselves to not have the issues addressed.
Yeah.
They decided to handle it their way, and it's not right.
Yeah. Teachers.
Now,
Yeah, I was going to say teachers have a huge responsibility. They're at the coal face every day with these kids, and and look, parents have got a responsibility as well. But there needs to be some, as you said, a unity in terms of that communication and a working out of what the problem is and how we're going to address it.
right. There's a line that needs to be drawn, and today teachers, more so, are trying to cross a line that they shouldn't be crossing, you
Yes.
know? And it literally is. It's tearing apart the family dynamic.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
that's why nowadays more and more children are telling their parents to shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Leave me alone. And it's like, you're a child. You don't know.
That's
Just
right.
because your teacher told you you can do this and you can do that. No, they're there to teach you. You're not there to push my child in any direction other than, okay, this is your assignment for class.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. If you need help with how to do that, I, this is what we can do. But anything outside of what's supposed to be taught in a classroom, teachers should have nothing to do with it. Their
Exactly.
counselors are there for them to go to when they're having issues. And if it's not addressed, the counselors need to take it to the parents.
Exactly.
Don't handle this themselves. That's not their job. They're not
Yes.
That's not what my dollars pay for.
That's right.
My
Great.
dollars are paid for you to educate my child, to teach my child how to navigate certain subjects. Everything else, that's my job. That's a parent's job. That's why
And
you need to tell me so I can help them navigate those issues.
and that's what it used to be like. And
And
somewhere,
and right, and be the adult and
yeah,
make sure that the adults that are in play their role as assigned
that's
and
right.
stop taking away the assignment of parent.
Exactly. Yeah, well said. I think we've lost our way a little bit over the years,
Yeah.
and that's caused some disruption in terms of what we see happening in the news, the horrible stories involving
Yeah.
children. Horrific. Anyhow,
Now, Isla's story is particularly one of resilience and the pursuit of dreams despite her overwhelming odds. Now, do you hope that the narrative itself inspires readers who might be facing their own personal challenges?
Oh, definitely, definitely. The big theme in the book is hope, and we're in an age where we are all the gurus of manifestation, and I think I think Isla is the queen of manifestations. She wouldn't have been called that in the 1950s or 60s, but she is despite everything she's been through, she's a really strong girl, and she's a really real story of hope. And I think readers will take that away and inject that hope into their own lives. That no matter no matter what way things turn out, um, hope is always there. And I think that's like we're talking about kids before with schools and things. I think hope is what us humans can do really well. You look at, I've been in plays involving historical issues such as World War One and World War Two, and what what those men and women went through during those years were just terrible. You look at those terrible war crimes in Auschwitz, and
Yeah,
just the resilience of human beings when you look back historically is incredible. And although we have a lot of failings as human beings, we have a lot of triumphs as well. And I think the message, the real strong message for the book is hope. And I think human beings can be really, really good at that.
yeah. Now, how do you envision Isla's song um, to impact readers dealing with similar issues in their lives, such as, from the family betrayal to the healing power of music?
I think what's important is we tend to act before we think. People say, "Oh, I didn't mean to shoot them. I wish I had have thought about that," or "I didn't mean to say that awful thing to my wife this morning when I left for work. I should have sat down with her and talked out that," or "I didn't mean to abuse my child." I think human beings need to take a step back. We need to breathe. We need to think before we activate our tongues, because they're quite damaging tools, our tongues, in terms of what is expressed to other people. So I think we just need to step back from it all and have a look at what's going on and express it clearly, and as unemotively as possible, to try and to try and resolve issues that we have with each other. And I think that's really important, to just take that time, Kathy, because we can be quite cruel. People can be quite cruel,
Right.
but and I really believe there are some bad people in this world. There are some evil
Yeah,
people. However,
there are.
I would like to think that human beings, we have some good intentions. Most of us don't want to do the wrong thing, don't want to hurt each other. We only hurt each other because we're hurting ourselves inside.
Right.
So I think that's really important. And I think we need to take heed of that and not be so hard on ourselves, you know?
Right.
So hopefully people can take that way away from the book. And as I said, music is fantastic. Sometimes when I've got a revolting trial on, a really child sex abuse trial or something disgusting, I walk to court with my headphones on, listening to music that I love, because it
Yeah.
transports me to another place. It calms my nerves, it calms my stress levels, it helps me focus. And I'm hoping that the healing messages of music through the book give people that idea as well.
Yeah. I completely understand that particular set because whenever I need a mood lifter or something to help me, I'm in
Yeah.
a decent mood, but I don't want to lose it and I want to keep feeling better. My go-to is beach music uh,
Yeah.
or reggae. It's just like it reminds
Yeah.
me of the beach. I know. So that always brings my mood. That always keeps my mood going very well.
It's great,
Now,
isn't it? I'm doing a revolting trial next week in Newcastle, which is some distance north, near Sydney. In any event, the hotel is like 100 meters from this most beautiful surf beach. You would love it, Kathy. And at night, I turn on the heaters in the room, in the hotel room. I open the doors, and the waves. I go to sleep listening to the waves rolling in,
yeah, I'll
and
do that too. I'll put
it is
on,
it's the most beautiful thing, and it really stresses. It really de-stresses me rather, and is so peaceful. And yeah, and that's when I was writing Isla's song, just listening to that Joni Mitchell music, it put me in the right frame. It made me calm when I was writing, and it was just a beautiful segue into what ended up on the pages of the book.
now, I do have one final question. As somebody who is deeply invested in the welfare of children through both your legal and creative work, do you have future projects or initiatives that you're planning that continue to explore and address the challenges faced by children in turbulent family situations?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We've got a lot on the drawing board. We're trying to create here a hub, a kids hub, where all these resources will be in one place for parents and children to use. We've just finished a film called Millie, and my book, Millie and Her Magic Puppet Show, comes out in October, November, and that addresses child trauma. It's about two parents who are splitting up, but we're not quite sure whether they are going to be split up. But we've got a little girl in the middle of it all who's experiencing all of this and sends messages to her parents via the puppets that she speaks to.
Okay.
So it's a really cute book. It's been beautifully illustrated. I'm so proud of it. But the film is coming out at the end of the year. The Americans, whom I love to death, have taken on my film Tommy. They've Judge Cohen, Alicia Davis, who's the head of state courts, and um, a whole bevy of people in the states have set up a parenting program called Families in Transition. That parenting program has embedded my film Tommy into it, and the courts are now going to be having powers in order to order the parents watch my film Tommy and partake in that parenting program. And the parenting program, the educated evidence based research so far has shown it doesn't change the way parents feel about each other, but importantly, it changes the way people behave towards each other, which is, of course, a big benefit to the children. We're also about to embark on three other films. One of them is going to be Isla's song. We want to make the book into a film.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
which will be beautiful. And you can have front row tickets, Kathy, with a big bowl of popcorn to listen to that 60s music,
Oh, I would
which,
love that.
which, is, which would be
That would be
fantastic.
awesome.
So, yeah, I'm really excited about what we're doing. I'm really excited that, as you said at the start, this is an area that's resource poor. People need more resources. And I'm so proud that I'm in a position where I can do that for families and
That's
most
amazing.
importantly, their kids. Yeah,
Awesome. So that sounds amazing. I look forward to the film. I really do. That would be awesome to see. So thank you
absolutely.
for your time and have a great day. I know you're just getting up, so and
Yeah, thanks,
mine
Kathy.
is winding down. So you
Yeah,
have a great time and thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.
thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.